Hi Ian, thank you for joining me for this interview.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you very much. So, you are in charge of marketing at the Eclipse Foundation. Please tell us a bit about your role there.
So I look at my role as kind of in two ways. One is I do some work with the project side Eclipse and help them with their promotion and community building. And then also Eclipse it's very important to Eclipse is developing a big ecosystem around the Eclipse platform and the Eclipse technology. And so we have member companies that I work with to help them promote their solutions back into the Eclipse community.
So, who is the target audience for you? I imagine there are quite some actors in the Eclipse ecosystem.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because there's many target markets. Because within Eclipse we have over 200 different projects, and each one addresses the requirements and needs of specific customers and users. So it's hard to say there's one target audience. Certainly developers at a high level, but then there's PHP developers, or Java developers, there's embedded developers, there's mobile developers, and each project or community projects take a different approach to building up their community. The other target market which we look at is having organizations participate more in the foundation, more in the Eclipse community. Because what we try and do is communicate out that Eclipse is really a place for individuals and organizations to collaborate and innovate and create new technology around open source. So we believe that we have some of the best practices for doing collaborative open source development, where a number of companies would come together and create interesting technology that they need for their communities or their commercial products. And so a lot of the marketing that we do also is around just explaining what Eclipse does and why we're good for building up technology that can be shared.
So the Eclipse model is the model of a consortium,
yep,
where its members collaboratively develop software. What does that mean in terms of marketing? How does marketing within or outside of Eclipse differ from marketing an open source vendor or an open source project?
Well, there's I think two sides. One is to get the collaborations going. So how do we do that? And then there's, okay, once it's going, how do you market it out? I think getting the collaboration going, it's a combination of companies finding themselves and come to us with the collaboration, or a project's already started and then it grows into a collaboration. Some examples maybe. So if you look at our C++ IDE, it started out as a very good C++ IDE, but over time it's grown into being the de facto standard. So if you go into the embedded space, all the real-time operating system vendors use CDT as their IDE for their commercial solution. And what happens is they also contribute back into CDT to make it better, right? So companies like Nokia, Wind River, so Intel Wind River, but then there's also end user companies that are starting to join the collaboration. So that's kind of growing up organically with that. Then the flip side is we also look for industry associations of how we can bring together implementations of standards. One of the things I'm working on is how do you get end user companies that are doing a lot of model-driven development to work together to create a better platform for doing model-driven development. And a lot of that is just basic kind of finding the people that are interested, and a lot of it's business development that we're doing. Then I think the flip side is, okay, once the project's created, then just getting awareness, and a lot of that is just kind of standard open source marketing, where you're providing very good technical contact, you're doing good community building around social networking, but also having face-to-face contacts too. So like, I'm a big believer that you need to do really good online marketing, and having the content available online in the forums and the interactions. But you also have to have face-to-face connection. So we're at Eclipse Summit Europe here, and this is an important part of building up the communities within Eclipse. And so we do a lot of events. We have two big events, one in Europe and one in North America on an annual basis. And then we do a lot of smaller events, one-day events throughout the year in different regions, and really trying to nurture and facilitate the growth of the different communities within Eclipse.
So I guess the lead generation part of your job is to drive more members towards the Eclipse Foundation. And how do you market in that area? What kind of collateral do you, for example, provide? How do you support other people within the foundation to actually be able to convince organizations to become members?
So we have lots of standard collateral that we provide to talk to people about it. But we do a lot of presentations, just kind of networking with people. But frankly, a lot of people find us. I'm kind of lucky because Eclipse has a good brand awareness. So when I started the job, kind of an enviable situation where Eclipse was a well-established brand, right? So I didn't need to, and we continue not to need to introduce Eclipse to people. People know what Eclipse is about. So often they'll come to us and find us for that. But still, a lot of it is, because the type of sale is very much relationship. Like, they're not coming to just buy a widget from us. They're buying kind of a new way of doing business. So it's a lot of it's business development, traditional business development, talking to people, making them understand what we can offer, and then bringing them through to either starting a project or starting collaboration at the foundation.
How does your marketing team look like? Which people do you have in your team, or do you have external agencies that you work with? How do you implement marketing at Eclipse Foundation?
There's myself and one person on my team. So the foundation's very small. But what we do is we use the member companies a lot as the extended marketing. So we try and create enabling services that the member companies can then use in local areas. So for instance, we have a series of demo camps, what we call demo camps. So it's kind of the bar camp idea. What we do is member companies will organize these demo camps, and it's an evening event where people come together, they show off what they're doing with Eclipse, and what the foundation does is pay for the beer and food, right? So what we're trying to do is, I can't organize all these events, right? We just don't have the staff to do that, or the reach, but we have lots of people within our community that are marketing professionals, and we leverage them to help spread the word. And similarly with conferences. So at CBIT, for instance, we're going to have an Eclipse pavilion at CBIT. We had one last year. It was very, very successful, and we're going to have it again. But it's really just the member companies coming together with their commercial offerings and their open source offerings, participating under the Eclipse brand for that. So a lot of it's kind of ingredient brand marketing, where companies that have Eclipse solutions use the Eclipse name and to help, and they promote Eclipse, but also at the same time promote their solutions too.
That's an interesting point, because open source vendors, they do co-marketing for their partners, and it's the partners who expect them to provide brochures, for example, for pitches to potential customers. But with the Eclipse Foundation, it's the other way around. It's you who somehow uses the members for co-marketing.
Yeah, no, for sure, and it's not a very non-traditional marketing setup. It's a lot of ingredient brand marketing where we encourage people to use the Eclipse brand in a good way to help promote their products. But we're lucky too, right? Because the Eclipse Foundation is a not-for-profit, right? So I don't have to show incredible growth, right? I don't have a lot of pressures that normal open source companies would have, right? So that gives a lot more flexibility of what we can do for people. But kind of my goal is to kind of make sure Eclipse is used in a positive way and build up a positive brand experience. But also just to like, a lot of people think of Eclipse as just being a Java IDE, and we've moved beyond that. I think like most people know it's much more than just a Java IDE. but really trying to get to where it is a consortium, where it is a place that people can come and collaborate around open source. And that's very different from your traditional open source marketing, where it's more traditional ISV marketing and product marketing, right? So this is something, a very different approach.
Could we label it a community-driven brand development?
Sure. Yeah. No, I think it's a lot of that. I'm not exactly sure what the right name is. I keep on coming back to ingredient branding because, like, if the kind of the most famous would be the Intel Inside, right? And Intel certainly paid a lot of money to create that, right? But it was very much like they used their partners to take Intel out to the end users, and we do a lot of that. But at the same time, people come a lot directly to us, right? And so we have a very a high traffic website. We get over, I think it's about 1.2 million unique users to our website in a month, right? So it's very, very popular, and so a lot of people come to us, and so we need to be able to explain what we are, what we have, what are the different options that you can get. So there is product marketing too that we need to do, and that is really about working with the projects to make sure they are good communicators, and they're communicating a solution with that, and that's just kind of working with them and trying to help coach them on that. So there's both aspects, but to me the interesting thing is how do you get the wider community to understand that Eclipse is a place for doing collaboration.
Okay, that brings me to the final question, which is, what is the value of potential Eclipse members to be a member of Eclipse, the marketing value?
Well, so what we do for our member companies is try and help promote their solutions back into the Eclipse community. And the main vehicles we do that are through our websites, our web traffic, and through events like our EclipseCon and Eclipse Summit Europe. So with our web properties, basically the idea is that we'd like to try and redirect some of the traffic we get to Eclipse solutions. So we have something called Eclipse Marketplace, which is the equivalent of almost like an app store for Eclipse. And so our member companies can put their solutions into that, and then when someone starts up Eclipse, you can actually bring up a wizard to install these solutions in. We also have on our websites places where people can put news about their solutions, right? So we're trying to expose our ecosystem to the Eclipse community, and hence giving our members more visibility to that community.
So the high visibility of the Eclipse project or the Eclipse community actually means instant visibility for your members.
Yeah, well, we like to think so. So and we certainly try and encourage the member companies and help them grow their solutions. There's a lot of our member companies are small startups, right? Some will have an open source product strategy, some are commercial. It's just purely commercial. In my experience, a lot of them, it's still a similar tactics, and a lot of what I do is work with them and explain to them what are the different things that they could do to market their solutions into their Eclipse community, and give them advice on what I see as some best practices from being around for a long time and doing developer tools and doing open source at Eclipse.
It's just something like crowdsourcing marketing, like a marketing mailing list that your members are subscribed to?
Yeah. We have marketing mailing lists and the kind of marketing committees at Eclipse where the member companies work together on different activities for that. So absolutely, and we have quarterly meetings for the members where I will present kind of some of the marketing programs that we have and the ideas that we're working on. So, yeah, for sure.
Great. Thank you very much for some great answers.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
Around identity management, right? So there's sub-communities within Eclipse that
No worries. We'll just keep going.
The power of editing.
Kein Problem. Ja, wir nehmen gerade ein Video-Interview auf.
Ach so, Entschuldigung.
Kein Problem, kein Problem. That was funny.